This is the Superhero Sidekick Coaching Podcast. I'm Joel Smith.
I'm Joe Baker. We're not here to be the superhero. We just want to be your sidekick and help you along in building your business, building your not-for-profit. Let's help you grow it fast and really scale.
Be sure to check us out on Facebook and visit us at superherosidekick.com. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Superhero Sidekick Coaching Podcast. I'm Joel Smith with Joe Baker. Joe, how you doing today?
Hey, doing good. I'm excited for this podcast. It's something I think about a lot.
Yeah, no doubt. So we've got Lance Farrell back on our program again. Lance is the CEO and the founder of Farrell's Extreme Bodyshaping. And he's a 6-degree black belt with a mission to inspire people to live with power and purpose. Lance, welcome back.
Thanks, Joel. Good to see you, Joe.
Yeah.
I love the name Sidekick because that's like kind of what I grew up doing as sidekick. Yeah. So this is perfect.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I'd rather, I don't want to be the superhero. I just want to be the sidekick.
Yep.
I'd actually like to be your sidekick. I like to back you up, see you kicking some of these bags.
Oh yeah, that's fun. I still like to do that.
Yeah. Hey, so before the show, we were thinking about a topic for this, and Joe came up with a great topic. So Joe, I'm going to let you introduce the topic here, and then we'll hand it over to Lance and have a great conversation.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people in the new year will set some goals. They'll set some small goals or colossal goals, but rarely do people actually start keeping score. And I think really one of the most important things in being successful is being successful daily. That's what makes you successful. So if you want to fundraise, you got to figure out what are the leading measures, and you got to be successful daily. You got to make this many calls, this many text messages, this many emails every day. You know, if you want to be really awesome at rock climbing, me and Sam every day we go to the gym and we keep score. We have a little point system and these little dashes that I make in a journal, and I think we're the only ones that do it. But I track him every single day, and if he wins, then you know we'll have ice cream that night, or I'll do something special, and he ends up winning like every time. You know, I don't always win, but he does. Because I'm holding him accountable. But we've got a big goal in mind. And so with our big goals in mind, we have to win every single day. And that's the advantage of keeping score, is you feel like you're winning. And I know that that's going to be a big part with Farrell's Extreme Bodyshaping. And so with that, Lance, why don't you share a little bit about all the things, all the metrics that people track when they join your program and how you hold them accountable?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. So, you know, they say the old saying, you know, it's hard to know where you're going if you don't know where you're at, right? So you got to really first establish where are you now. And so what we do is establish a baseline. And so people enroll with us. Then when the next 10-week session rolls around, we have a contest, a chance to win $1,000. That's kind of a big deal. So we've got to make sure we track stuff. So what we do is to figure out what their baseline is. Where are you when you start? And it doesn't matter. Some people are 20 pounds overweight. Some people want to gain 10 pounds of muscle. Some people are 200 pounds overweight from where they want to be. So that's where we figure out the baseline. And weight is just one thing everybody can relate to, but it's not the most important thing. So when we do the baseline, we actually check them when they first start the 10-week challenge. We do a 5-week test, then we do a 10-week test, and we do a before picture at the very beginning and then an after picture at the 10-week. Then if they enroll for the annual national challenge, then we do another photo and some checks along the way. But we actually track their attendance when they're doing class, but that's a really important part of it, because if you don't show up, right, we can do. So we have in-body machine also. So that checks their body fat. It's got bone density, muscle mass, body fat, water weight, and every limb and torso. So it breaks it down a very scientific method, so we know what's happening in their body all the way around. We use also a heart monitor called MyZone. So during class, we see where the heart is at, and we got the red zone as the top and the yellow zone. We do hit training, so we try and keep that MyZone around the yellow and red, bounce up in the red once in a while, but keeping that optimum zone. And the instructor can see everybody's tile on that TV, and we can know exactly where they're at and how we can scientifically keep them in that best zone for the cardiovascular, which is the kickboxing, and then also for the strength training. We don't go as high into the red with the strength training, but some people do on lower body day. You'd be surprised how many people get their heart rate up really high. And so when they start out, we do a mile run or walk. If you have bad knees, you do the walk, but a mile to see how the cardiovascular is starting. And we don't run anytime throughout the process It's not part of our program. But we run again at 5 weeks, run again at 10 weeks, and you'd be surprised how people will trim 2 to 3 minutes, or sometimes even more, off that mile by not running, by just following the nutrition and doing the workouts that we do. And so then we do body measurements. So we'll measure the arm, the chest, the waist, the hips, and the thigh, and so we know what the circumference is of those, and so we track how many inches they lose over that time period. And we do push-ups in a minute, sit-ups in a minute, how many they can increase in those, and a sit and reach. So we're checking the flexibility, and with all of that, we're pretty much tracking as much as we can possibly track. And then we also help with their food logs too. So what do you like to eat? Let's work off that, and how can we pick the foods that you like and put it up on a program so it helps you to reach your goals. And so when we get the baseline set with all those metrics we check, and then we can move in on and dial in on what goals they want. If it's to gain muscle, here's the suggested meal plan for you. Let's talk through it. If you want to lose body fat, which is the majority of our people that want to do that, here's what you're going to do this way. And it's common knowledge now, but it was counterintuitive when we started this 20 years ago. To eat 6 times a day, you're going to lose weight. I just thought that was nuts, but that is really what happens, because your body's either going to store or it's going to burn. We want to put it in burn mode. And if you're eating all the time, your body says, oh, I don't have to store, so I'm just going to burn it. And that's how that works. But you're eating healthy food, realistic sized portions. So I think you guys know this. I may have said this before on your show, but eat protein the size of your palm, carbs the size of your fist, at least 80 ounces of water a day. And you're also getting plenty of sleep. And you're eating green vegetables with those too, as much as possible. So that's it in a nutshell.
Well,
Keeping score.
That's a lot to keep score. Now, I think the secret to that is that the person that joins your gym, they're keeping score with some of the things, but you're actually holding the clipboard, keeping score, right? I mean, it's the accountability of the gym, like is keeping a lot of these metrics, right?
Yeah. So every location has a head coach. That person's in charge of the entire programming process to make sure we have instructors in place, all that. And the head coach also assigns coaches, and the coaches may not necessarily be an instructor, but the coach is somebody that's been through the program that is holding people accountable. So we'll have 10 or fewer people assigned to one coach every 10-week session. So let's say we have 100 new people start. That means we have 10 coaches minimum to coach those people. And so that coach then is doing the boots on the ground, making sure to hold that person accountable to what they're supposed to be eating, to attend their classes. If you're supposed to come at 5 o'clock in the morning to do class, Joe, and you miss, that coach is going to be on the phone with you sometime that day saying, hey, Joe, I missed you in class. Are you okay? You're like, oh, crap, they're watching me. I better show up tomorrow, right? And that's how it works. As long as you know somebody's watching, that's the key to accountability, and that they care.
Yeah, I totally see that. I totally see that in the way I'm developing Sam. Like some days when we go to the gym, I don't even get to climb because I'm just so focused on keeping his score and tracking him and keeping him on task to kind of beat his last record, and that is what makes him successful. And it takes those two people. It takes it, and that's why it's so important. You get a coach. Like nobody ever goes to the Olympics and says, you know what? I really can't afford a coach. I don't really have an extra, the time for a coach. Like it's the coach that's holding the clipboard. It's the coach that's helping you keep score. And it's so critical that you have that person there, for your own success. And that's what you guys have brought about. I mean, you guys are like these literal superhero sidekicks. You guys are sidekicking these people and, providing that accountability, which makes the whole thing successful. It's so cool to see.
Well, Joe, I got a new appreciation for what you do. I went out to visit my son who's in Missoula, Montana, and there's a lot of rock climbing out there. And he took me to a rock climbing place where he's a member of. He's been doing this for a while. And I got in there, and it was my daughter, my son, and I doing this rock climbing. And I realized I got a lot of work to do. That is hard. And I needed a coach to tell me how to take these baby steps and not wear my forearms out so fast.
Yeah.
I laid around more than I was climbing because I was just exhausted. My forearms couldn't do anymore. And so I really appreciate what you do, being out there with him and trying this. And wow, it's a whole nother deal. It's hard. But if you have a coach, it's going to be much more palatable.
Yeah, they're going to tell you to put your weight on your legs, and make sure
Exactly.
you get your feet on the good footholds. Yeah, because a lot of people who come in who are you know athletes come into climbing, and they just over grip the wall, and they just are hanging from their arms. And a great climber is more like like a ballet student, like just kind of dancing up the wall. It's not about doing pull-ups. So yeah,
I wish
that's
I would
good.
have heard that before I went in there with him, because I was
Yeah,
like, oh man.
You would have
your
taken a
forearms are
ballet
definitely gonna
class, right?
explode.
I mean, I like the workout, but I couldn't do anymore because I didn't approach it in a smart way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Lance, we're talking about keeping score today. And just to speak from kind of a normal person's perspective, sometimes people don't really like to keep score. We don't like to step on the scale because we're afraid of what we're going to see, and we don't necessarily like to have all of our limitations measured. And that's kind of a normal default way of thinking, but it's not really a healthy way of thinking. And the truth is, though, when we dare to take that step to transparency, where we're able to look at ourselves and really see ourselves for where we really are, or as you say, Lance, knowing where your starting point is. How do you get to a different place if you don't know where you're at? So if you don't dare to step into the light and be transparent, you're not going to know. You're not going to be able to appreciate any kind of baby step. So one thing that I can really appreciate about what you're talking about, as far as these measuring points, these keeping score of all of the different parts of the body, and all of this, the thing that I can appreciate about that is that when I step into the light and then I start working on it, because we're measuring so many things, you can see progress so much quicker. You can't see progress if you step on the scale once a month, but if you step on the scale every day, then you can start to see progress right away. So the more we measure, the more progress we can see, even if it's small progress. But that small progress, that's the key to continued motivation, don't you say?
100% right, Joel. I mean, it's not easy to measure typically, but once you get it down, you start getting the habits. It's just like changing your workout routine or changing your diet. Once you get those habits, it's easy to keep that lifestyle going. But the same thing, it's a business thing. If you're not keeping KPIs, knowing where you're at, you don't know where you're going to go, right? You've got to establish that baseline, just like we do all those tests, and keep those KPIs, keep track of what you're doing, because you only change really what you track. If you're not tracking it, things aren't going to change. You're not going to know. You're not going to care as much. But when you start figuring out where you're at, and that's actually not easy. A lot of times that's the heavy lifting, is figuring out, okay, where can we start tracking stuff? How do like roles and responsibility at work? What are my roles and responsibilities? How do I track that? That sometimes is difficult for people to do, but once you do the heavy lifting and get that figured out, it's a game changer.
Yeah, as I work with CEOs, I try to tell them, like, every person in your office should be tracking at least one thing that that you can ask them, and they can give you that number for the day, and just, I mean, like, that person should have more than one, but there's one in your relationship that you can ask them every day and they'll tell you. And I kind of like that concept. And another concept too is I'm putting together a snowmobile trip. I always do one in February, and to get 25 guys to go on a snowmobile trip, I figured at the beginning of it, I needed to invite at least 100 guys. And so I needed to get 75 no's to get 25 yeses, and so what I wanted to track and do some testing on is I wanted to see how many no's I could get. And so every day, like, I just wanted to see if I could get another no, and in the end, for the 25 guys that signed up for my snowmobile trip, I didn't even get 25 no's, because most people are really indecisive and they don't want to tell you no, but they don't want to tell you yes either. But as I began to, like, celebrate the no's, it gave me a lot more, energy to actually like keep going, because I was always celebrating the yeses. But for me, it was about learning to celebrate those no's and to track them. And so as I kept keeping, I would have never been able to fulfill the snowmobile trip without keeping score like that. So,
I'm actually going to steal that, Joe. I love the fact that you were celebrating the no's, because you know you're going to get a percent of yeses out of those. And what a great way to make it fun and not so much pressure. Oh, I got another no, son of a gun. Hey, I got a no.
yeah, exactly. I got to get a no today before I go to bed. So I'm like over there with glow face texting guys trying to get get them to tell me no.
But you're so right, though. People are indecisive and they don't want to tell you no because they think you want to go. You don't care. You just want, you're in or you're out.
Yeah, just give me a freaking no so I stop bothering you. Like,
Yeah,
I don't want to
exactly.
keep texting you.
I like that a lot. I'm going to steal that one.
Yeah, anytime. You know, and I teach that with fundraising too. Like, I try to get people to celebrate no's, because we're trained from from young that, like, when someone says no, or someone says, like that's the fear. The fear is, oh, what if they say no? What if they tell me no? It's like, well, let's actually reverse that and overcome that and help them really get excited, and try to read, because our brains are actually like hardwired. And that's something that's wired in there, that no is something to be scared of. And if we can rewire our brain to want it, we're going to be way better at closing people and getting them to at least give us a yes or no. Because in fundraising, most people, they want to pray about it forever. They want to just, think about it for the next, 6 months. But if you don't get the no when you're fundraising, the other thing that happens is you really hurt the relationship, because it's kind of like proposing to somebody. It's like you're proposing to them. If they don't give you a yes or no, and then you see them at church in 2 weeks, your relationship is in a weird place. Whereas if they had just given you a no, that, okay, well, no means maybe later. No could actually mean something in the relationship, or no could be no, and you got to deal with it. But when you don't get the no, that's the hardest thing, because
So Joe, that's really profound, because this is probably for another podcast sometime and the next one we do, but there are 3 things in a relationship that make it successful that you got to have. And you're talking about one of them. One of them is boundaries. You get a yes or no. You're not like maybe. So you establish a boundary and then the second most important thing in relationships is, and they're all 3 the same, equally important, but acceptance. You accept the person's decision. You accept where they're going. You accept their faults, whatever it is. And then the third is showing unconditional love. So you have boundaries, acceptance, and then unconditional love. And if you have all those 3, you have a successful relationship. If the boundaries are loose, you don't have good fences, it's going to be tough on the relationship. If you're not showing unconditional love, oh, I only love you if you do this or that, you have a tough relationship. And if you're not accepting of them for whatever the decision is, again, weak relationship. Those 3 things, though, in balance, and you've got something strong.
That's good.
That's a whole other podcast, though, I think. We can dig into that later.
That's really good, because I bet you there's times in your coaching where, just like in our coaching, where we like want to grab somebody and we get ahead of them. And I start working harder than them, or you start working harder than the guy that you're coaching. And what happens is you can't do that in a coaching sidekick relationship, because the relationship gets very controlling. And I just have to tell people I'm working with, and like, hey, I can only go at your pace. And right now I'm walking. I can go faster, but like, I'm not going to go faster than you, and I think, I assume you run into that as well, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, I like that.
What do you do when they're walking, when you're walking and you're trying to get them, what do you do in that case? How do you get them?
So the example that comes in my head is when I used to train people in free sparring, and I'm 6'5", typically nobody's really taller than me that I'm sparring as a student, but wherever level they were at, I would just try to spar just a tiny bit higher than their level to push them to do better. And that seemed to work fairly well. So I could have knocked them out with a kick. They were a beginner, but what good would that do? Right?
Yeah.
Nobody learns anything. But if you can spar just one level above them, then that pushes them and that makes them better. And then the next time they're going to spar at a higher level the more they train.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, that is good. And that's a great coaching philosophy too. I think sometimes people, maybe when they hear the word extreme too, they might be thinking that I'm going to be pushed way harder than what I'm capable of doing. But really in the coaching world, or in the body shaping world, great coaches aren't going to do that. They're not going to push you so far that you can't do it. And that's where kind of that those 3 steps that you were talking about, Lance, comes in. Just even that unconditional love, or that acceptance thing. It's like, hey, we're going to accept you where you're at. We understand where you're at, and we don't have any expectations of you being where I'm at or way down the road. We just want you to be a little bit further from where you're at now down the road, and we're gonna help you get those baby steps. So, sometimes there is a fear in coaching. It's like, I'm going to be pushed too hard, and that really isn't the case with coaching, is it? Right, Joe?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can only go at their pace. Yeah.
As a coach, as a master climber, however you describe yourself, Joe, you have to have a lot of patience with your students, and that's the unconditional love that you talk about in the middle of that.
I don't have students. I just have 3 boys, but yeah, it is that is so true. Is that at the end of the night, no matter how well you did, I love you, and and I'm gonna cuddle you into bed and put you down. Like that is so important too. Is that because that I think a lot of parents that are kind of driving their kids to success kind of start losing that. They get really kind of they start taking on the goal as their own, and then they coach them and don't have that, and I think that's the component that really could damage our relationship.
By the way, have you guys seen Chuck Norris's movie Sidekick?
No.
You definitely should watch that.
Yeah,
Well,
we could make that a theme. Do they have a theme song?
I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
He was actually promoting that movie years ago, and he went from city to city. The movie was playing, and he would sign autographs in the movie theaters where the movie was playing. And I found he was coming to Des Moines, found the hotel he was staying in. I called his manager, said, "Hey, Chuck can come work out with us if he wants, because he's a Taekwondo guy from the original, just like us." And they said, "Oh, he's too busy, but he'd love to have your demonstration team come over and do a demonstration at the movie theater where he signed autographs." So we got to do that, and we're there doing our forms and breaking boards and bricks and having fun. And then got to take some photos with Chuck, and it was a lot of fun. But
Yeah.
Sidekick, yeah, he's promoting that movie. He had his Sidekick jacket on with his name on it right there.
Nice.
So in the same way of keeping score in business, what metrics do you like to track, just like in business in general? Like, what are the things that you're looking at on a regular basis?
Well, for us, it's very important to impact as many people as we can. So we're going to track active student count. How many people do we have attending class today, this week, this month? And how do we raise that active student count? And then by raising that, so there's 2 things in business we do. We're going to try and close the back door by keeping as many people as we can, keep them happy, helping them get results. We're going to open the front door and enrolling new people. So there's a lot of KPIs when it comes to opening the front door. That's how many leads can we generate? How many people can we get interested in a program? And then out of those leads, how many appointments can we set? Have them actually show up, do a free week or whatever we do for offer to get them to come in. And then how many of those people can we get to enroll as a student? So those are some fundamental key KPIs. And then you can go into the social media and get KPIs from that area and just track how that's doing. And there's so many ways to track stuff.
And just for clarification for anybody that's listening, the term KPI that Lance is talking about it's key performance indicators, and it's something in the business world that we use as measuring sticks. It's picking out different things. Oftentimes it usually comes in the form of a number, some kind of a metric that we can look at that gives us an idea of where we're at. And a KPI usually is easily measured, and it's something that it's kind of like a lever. When you can raise that KPI, performance goes up, and it's an indication of results. And so just for clarification there, but KPIs are really, really important in business, aren't they?
Well, and for us, it's like, if we're getting, like, it's the 80% rule. A lot of times, if you get 80% of your leads to actually show up, that's good. If you're not getting that number, then okay, what do we need to do to improve that? How can we make that better? So, and then when people show up, we should get 80% of those people to actually enroll. If that's not happening, okay, where are we messing up here? So it allows you to establish some fundamental basics on where you need to be, and then know where you need to spend your time improving.
Yeah. Joe, what are some KPIs that you've used in the fundraising world?
Yeah, so I'm always looking at the leading versus lagging measures, and it's really easy to look at the lagging measures, like how many dollars have you raised, how many donors do you have. But what I want to track on like a daily basis is how many phone calls did you make, how many text messages did you send, how many in-person meetings did you have, how many handwritten notes did you write, how many gifts did you send this year or this day or this week. And so I'm always looking at the leading measures, with the people I'm working with and trying to track those. And those are the things that turn into money.
Yeah.
And so
So sometimes focusing on the process as much as the results can really be beneficial to help you hit those benchmarks along the way and not just focus on the finish line.
yeah. Because that's really what determines your success. It's just like, it's the things you can control. It's almost like losing the weight in my mind feels like a lagging measure. That happens, but you don't have full control of it. You have control over it by how many pull-ups do you do, how many sit-ups do you do, how many,
Exactly.
miles do you run. And it's like, those are the things you want to track. And then you'll feel like you're winning. And in time, the weight comes off, so it's, but sometimes in fundraising, people are so focused on how many dollars did we raise that they really aren't winning every day. They're and fundraising can also be very volatile, where you suddenly have a big check come in, like for $100,000, and you kind of celebrate that day, but then the next day you crash when it doesn't come in. And what you want is that daily rhythm of success. And it's not about the big check coming in. It's about the fact you got 100 points today. That's what gets people like great success, when every day they're getting 100 points. Every day they're coming home high-fiving their wife because they got their points. That's what raises a lot of money in fundraising, not celebrating, the big checks are coming in, but celebrating the daily wins and winning every day. That's what makes you successful as a fundraiser.
Yeah. And when the big results come too, it's important to understand that the big result didn't come in one day.
Right. It came
maybe
3
it took
months
100
ago.
days to get that. And
Yeah,
so you
yeah.
break it down day by day, and all of that process, every day plays a part in that final result. You don't lose 100 pounds in a day, you lose 100 pounds in a year. And
Yeah.
and so when you measure it by daily success, it has more to do with the disciplines that you're doing and the habits that you're creating, rather than just simply trying to go for some big result.
Yeah.
And it's so simple too. It's just follow the process, and it's just basic fundamentals. You follow the process, the results will come.
Yeah. But it is really important though, Lance, and you can correct me or agree with me on this, but I think it has to do with some denial too. For instance, comfort is so important to most people. When we're thinking about our comfort, when we're thinking about our immediate gratification, that really just kind of puts a hold in any kind of longer term goals, because we're always sacrificing later for right now. And so what you're talking about is you're talking about a discipline that focuses on the future, but also at the same time focuses on daily routines. And that focus has to be greater than your focus on comfort, because it's really easy it's not easy to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go to the gym, but it's really easy to sleep in till 9 o'clock and then get up and eat a bunch of bacon and biscuits, right?
Yeah, Joel, what you're talking about is applying self-discipline, and that's hard. And that's why we talk about setting goals and having those big goals, because that helps you on the day-to-day process with that self-discipline. So you have the BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal, and then you apply your self-discipline to reach that by your daily things that you do. And then you have hopefully somebody to coach you through those things that's been there, done that, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. But yeah, I mean, you either are going to pay a little bit now. It's uncomfortable to use your self-discipline. Let's say with marketing, people don't want to pay for marketing. They don't want to spend the money to do marketing, but they do it, and they do apply a sales process to that. So you're paying a price today with some self-discipline. You're going to pay a little bit today, or you're going to pay a lot for regret later when you don't have the money to pay your bills. You didn't market, you didn't do the sales process, you didn't follow it. So to pay a little bit now with your self-discipline of not eating that candy bar, or pay a lot with regret later when you're 100 pounds overweight because you had a bad lifestyle habit.
And the truth is, you're going to pay one way or the other.
You're going to pay one way or the other. I'd rather pay now with a little bit of self-discipline than pay later with regret, because that's a much higher price tag at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of a stupid tax that gets added.
Yeah.
So why do people not get a coach when it comes to losing weight and body shaping? Why would anybody not do that? Like, what are the excuses?
The only reason is because they don't know how to do it. They don't know where the person is, where they can find that person, or they don't trust the person, or they think they see something, oh, that's just about a gimmick. That guy's trying to make money. He wants to make money off me. Or they've tried several things before and not had success. So they have this lack of confidence. They have a fear that they're going to get into it again. Oh, I just can't do that because I never have. And so they just told themselves mentally, there it goes again, your attitude. I said, I can't. That's the worst thing you can say. Just scratch that from your vocabulary.
Yeah.
Well, what about just that they don't want to drop the money? Like, and here's an interesting question that you might actually know the answer to. What should it cost to drop 100 pounds? Let's say I'm 100 pounds overweight and I come to you and it's like, I'm going to go through your program. What does that cost?
That should cost you just a little south of $2,000.
$2,000.
It should take you less than a year, $1,700, $1,800. Would you, if I told somebody if I could
$20
take
a pound.
If I could, if I could take 100 pounds off you today, how much would that be worth? Far more than $2,000, right?
Well, when you
To
think
attend
about what it
classes 6
costs
days
to
a week,
be
get the
100
coaching,
pounds overweight, well, I mean, what does it cost
much
you
higher
to
than
be
that.
that out of shape? It costs you years on your life. It costs you time every day and energy. It costs you relational value. It costs you performance in your work and everything. It costs so much to be out of shape
once
or
again,
maybe dysfunctional or whatever.
You're paying a high price for regret at the end for not that sacrifice.
Yeah.
I'm paying a little bit now so you can not have to pay a lot later.
But that's an interesting concept. If someone comes to you, just say, hey, it costs $20 a pound. How many you want to take off? Like, I think that's almost like a really good kind of like way to look at it. Like I could trim you up, it'd be $2,000.
And then if you can just take that a little bit further too with the scorekeeping theme too, and you think, well, how many miles do I need to run, or how many of these specific kind of exercises do I need to do to drop 1 pound? And now you're even equating it even a little bit more. Hey,
that's a really good point. So how much time does it take to drop per pound? So like 100 pounds, how much time would that take?
You know, what's funny is you say that because I my license plate says 48 to great. Let me explain 48 to great to you. The 48 is actually hours. Let's see. Okay, so here's how I came about it. So we have a 10-week session, and we had great results with our 10-week session. And I'm sitting in the barber shop getting my hair cut, and my barber's telling me how he did this program over at another gym, and they had a 60-day program. 60 days. Wow, that sounds like a lot less than 10 weeks to me. But it's the same. I don't know if they got the idea from us or not, but I thought that was good. And so then I thought, okay, well, how much time is ours? 45 minutes a day times 60 days. That's 45 hours plus a 3-hour orientation. That's 48 hours. So I said to the marketing team, hey, let's go with 48 to great. Sounds like a great advertising promotion to me. Like, it's too much to explain. People won't get it. So I said, okay, I'll just do a personalized license plate that's 48 to great, and that'll be my license plate because I'm proud of the thing I thought of, right? It's an ego thing. So I have this license plate 48 to great, but that's all the time it takes is 48 hours. Of course, they're spread out over 10 weeks, but that's how much time it takes for people to lose. We have people lose up to 55 pounds in that 10 weeks, which seems like a lot, doesn't it? And if somebody comes to me and says, I want to lose 20 pounds, that's an easy thing in 10 weeks to do if they follow the process. It's easy, so easy.
So 50 is pretty close to 48. So like we're at an hour a pound and $20. So it takes $20 and an hour per pound. It's like that should be the marketing line. I mean, think about that. Like that, someone thinks about it and they look at themselves, they stand on a scale and they're like, wow, $20 a pound, 1 hour a pound. Okay, I can afford that.
Well, and it makes it sound doable too. It's like, well, hey, this is just a recipe. If you just do the recipe, you're going to get the same results every time. And so I like that. It's like I can do 48 hours if I just stick to it. And so if I know that I'm going to do 48 hours, I know I'm going to get the results.
It feels like the lead a horse to water technique with coaching in a marketing sense. Like, do you know the lead a horse to water technique? Do you know that one, Lance?
No.
So
I've heard the saying.
Yeah, the concept is, you know, like people often overcommit when it comes to exercising. So they say, I'm going to do 2 hours a day on the treadmill. Well, a good coach will say, well, how about I just hold you accountable to 5 minutes on the treadmill? If you can do 5 minutes on the treadmill every day, but if you don't do it, there's this big consequence, like a big consequence, something that like, and I'm going to hold you accountable and you're going to pay it if you don't do it. And then when they get on the treadmill, they don't do 5 minutes, they do 45 minutes, you know, because they got on the treadmill. You just got to get them on the treadmill. But if the goal is too big, then they don't do it. You know what I mean? And so,
yeah.
So when you talk to somebody and you're like, hey, it's $20 a pound, it's 1 hour a pound, like how many you want to lose? It feels a little bit like, oh, okay. Like it doesn't feel colossal. It doesn't feel like I've got to, you know, stand on a treadmill for 2 hours. Like, and so then they actually do it. Like in their mind.
You guys invited me on here to talk about our thing. I've been writing all kinds of notes from what you guys are telling me. This is awesome.
Yeah. Sounds great. Hey, Lance, so how would anybody get a hold of you if they want to get buff and get in extreme shape? How would they get a hold of you or one of your shops?
My cell is 515-770-7295. Call me, text me, whatever, or Lance Farrell at extremebodyshaping.com. Happy to answer questions and help people out. That's what I love to do. I love meeting people too. So
rock on.
whatever I can do.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. This is awesome.
Yeah,
we
we
like
really
hanging out with
appreciate
you,
it, Lance.
Yeah, lots of fun.
Maybe when you get back from your trip, get a hold of us. We'll have you again on the show in the early summer.
Yeah, I'll probably make it back because Kilimanjaro is not quite as tough as Mount Everest, so it should be a pretty good chance I'll be back.
Heck yeah, man.
Sounds
Mount
great.
Everest, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that one.
Well, you just got to come to Colorado and I'll take you climbing sometime. I'll take you up the Garden of the Gods.
I'll hold you to that.
Okay, any day you want. You just
Cool.
send me a text.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Lance. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you all on the next episode.